Welcome to Emotional Detox Podcast, where our mission is to get the world feeling again. Here is your host, author Sherrianna Boyle.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Emotional Detox Now. And today you're in for a treat. I have a real fun guest lined up here. His name is Bernie Ashman. Hi, Bernie.
Hi. Hello.
Hello, all the way in North Carolina. I was just telling Bernie, just about everybody I'm talking to seems to be from North Carolina these days. Yeah. So, Bernie, let me tell my audience a little bit about you. Well, he is a highly respected professional astrologer, guys, who's been studying, practicing, and teaching for over 35 years. You're getting over 35 years worth of valuable information today. He's the author of many, many books. How many books are now, Bernie? I couldn't count.
It's actually, I'm up to 7.
7 books. Okay,
Yeah.
so 7 books. He's here today to talk about his most recent book. It's a recent release, which is called Sun, Sign, and Karma. Sun, Sign, Karma.
Yes.
And you can find Bernie. It's bernieashman.com. And welcome to Emotional Detox.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah. So, how did this all come about? I mean, interesting. I mean, how did you start studying this, Bernie?
Well, to tell you the truth, I discovered astrology, and believe it or not, in 1973. Mm-hmm. It was actually through a book by a Frenchman, Dane Rudyard. He wrote a book called Astrology of Personality. And when I got my hands on that book, I was hooked because I was really looking for where I fit into all this new age stuff. I just took a little while to just find my own path where I belonged in it. And I just dove right into this. And it's just been quite a journey, an exciting one. That's the amazing thing about this. Here it is all these years later, and it's still exciting. So it just keeps me very young, which is nice.
So you find this book and you dive in, and at what point, so you're excited about it and you're learning about the information. At what point does it kind of become your career? Because you're a consultant, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
And what does that mean to be a consultant of astronomy? Exactly.
Yeah. To be a consultant of astrology, usually there's several different skills that you develop. And anything from, I get asked about current cycles, like what can I expect for the upcoming year? Sometimes it's got to do with relationships. People just want more clarity about what to look for in that, or maybe a relationship they're in, they just want some help with it. Careers, that comes up an awful lot. And then I often seem to run into people that are just starting out, like a spiritual search of some sort. So sometimes I'm just kind of guiding them as best I can without telling them what to do, but just telling them maybe what kind of cycles they're in, just to help them along the way, basically, is what I'm doing.
So did you get really good at this, Bernie? Like, how does this happen? Did you get special training? Like,
that's a good question.
Yeah.
I think for each person, it is different. Sometimes for me, I was just fortunate that I'm very intuitive, and I knew that about myself. And I picked this up rather quickly. I belonged at that time to a really large meditation group of about 1,000 people. And when people found out I was into astrology, I started getting asked for one reading after another. And the more I did, the more I seemed to pick it up. There were some great books even back in the 1970s by different authors. And I read a lot and I practiced this a lot. Some people, it takes longer. They take a lot of classes. There are professional groups now around the country that can certify. I was grandfathered in because I've been doing this so long by a group called NCGR. But people want to get tested sometimes to just see what they know. There's just all kinds of ways you can learn this, but it can take a while to get good at this, to really feel confident and put it all together to get it out there for somebody, to take a complex language and make it clear enough for people to understand.
So it's almost like you had a little bit of a talent in this. I mean, that's the definition of talent, when something just kind of comes naturally and easy for someone. And you kind of wonder, do you think you've done this before? I mean, your book talks about past lives. You have books on
Yep.
past lives. What do you think? What's your take on that, Bernie?
I felt like I was walking into something I had done before. I felt like it was a real advantage for me.
Yeah.
I could tell in my own chart, astrological chart, it just made sense the more I looked at it early on. And as time went on, and now I know it's true. I've known that for several years.
Yeah.
So it really helped.
I bet it's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to do this in this lifetime too.
Yeah, my passion was there all over again. It was just like the vehicle for me to explore. And to tell you the truth, I really got into it in the beginning because I wanted to learn more about myself, is how it started. But I could tell it was something I could really utilize to help other people. The counseling side of me has always been strong. I'm a Sagittarian with a lot of that in my chart. And there's so much about communication in my own chart, and just wanting to help people to clarify certain things when they ask me questions about this and that. So,
do you ever find, in all your experience, do you ever find that sometimes it tips the scale? Meaning, do you find that people sometimes turn to astrology for the wrong reasons? Meaning, are they looking for a quick fix? Are they, what is your experience with that?
it used to be, but now people are just, they've really heard a lot about the subject. It's
Okay.
not just sun sign astrology anymore. Even in my own book, I went into a lot of depth to show that a sun sign is a lot more than you think it is.
Yeah.
People ordinarily, sometimes they ask the wrong question. I'll give them the right question, what they really need to be asking me, to just help them go a little deeper in what they're trying to find out. And I do that in not a judgmental way, but just to give them a little bit more clarity about where they are right now. And that's often what people want to know, is just, my clients tend to be very independent. They're not asking me to solve everything, but they are asking me for a lot of just options, how to figure their way out of something, or to just get, you could say, just clearer insight of some sort. I think that's where I help people the most, is just developing their own insight, to just find out what works for them. And I think that's what's fascinating about astrology. It helps a person just develop their own way of doing things in a clearer way.
And do you talk about that in your book, Sun Sign Karma? Do you talk about, or any of your books, the questions, the asking the wrong questions? And do you talk about questions that would be more beneficial to ask?
Yeah, even in the previous book that I had come out before, the past life book, the one you mentioned, Sun Signs and Past Lives, that came out in 2010. That one and the one now, Sun Sign Karma, basically do that. I presented the information in a way. I kind of showed what the you could say certain patterns we can bring into this life that maybe we need to work on, but then I gave the alternative way of using that energy, because really what we're trying to do is just channel energy into some kind of clearer way, of using it. So it's not necessarily of asking the wrong question in these books, but just presenting what a situation might be for somebody. I give several examples, but I also give, you could say, the way out of that, just a clearer way of using this energy.
So what is going on right now, Bernie? I mean, what is going on astrologically, energetically? This is coming out in January 2022. Can you give us some hope? I mean, really, Bernie,
Yeah.
what's going on and what's going to happen?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, to tell you the truth. It's kind of fresh in my own mind.
Yes.
In the sky right now, is Saturn is one planet, okay, which has a lot to do with uh, careers, work, jobs. Uranus is another planet that is a very independent planet. I want my freedom. I've been watching the news, about a lot of people not wanting to go back to work, or they're asking for more freedom, in the job place. So that cycle I found rather interesting that's going on now and will be going on pretty much throughout this year. The pandemic, which is on everybody's mind.
Everybody.
Yeah. When there was a conjunction that happened right as the pandemic came in, that happens every 35 years between Pluto and Saturn. I knew something was going to happen, but I honestly didn't know it was going to be this, 100-year pandemic. One thing that's very hopeful about this, Jupiter is a planet that could change the trajectory of this. In May of 2022, when it shifts into the sign Aries, I think it could show we're ready to move forward and maybe to leave a lot of this behind. I mean, that's what I'm really hoping that symbolizes in the sky. Some of these hard aspects that are in the sky right now are going to loosen their grip. So it could be that what some people are kind of forecasting in the medical field, that maybe as we get into the spring, I'm looking at May 10th when Jupiter goes into Aries, and it's got that Aries flare to it. Jupiter can be good luck in opening a new door of some sort for some hope that things are getting better, but it could make things better. So that's what I'm feeling as far as the pandemic goes, and just looking at some of these current cycles that are here. Some of the ones, sometimes my clients will ask me when they're in a tough cycle, they don't want to know when it began. They want to know when the damn thing's going to be over.
Yeah, when's it going to be over? It's a good question, right? Yes.
So some of these cycles that have been with us since this pandemic started, they are going to lighten up a bit. And what I'm hoping is that means this stuff will really start to really back off, especially in May of 2022. So I hope I'm right on that.
I hope you're right too, Bernie. I think people need to hear that. I mean, that it's interesting because I just heard that the other day as well, that things were going to peak and then they were going to get better, right?
Yeah.
And we just got to hang in there. It's not that far off, right?
Right, exactly.
Wow. So what does karma have to do with all of this? Because your book is Sun Sign Karma. What's the connection there?
Yeah. We all come in with something to work on. And, something from, if you believe in past lives, there is something your soul has come in to clean up. Maybe some excess baggage you no longer need anymore. It doesn't mean you've done all these awful things in past lives. We all have something that we came here to work on, or there would be no reason really necessarily for us to be here. So the whole thing about karma is cause and effect. Maybe we have done some things in some past lives and we've just come in here again. One thing I find interesting when you get a chart done, I usually find 5 or 6 key past lives connected to the chart we're born with in this lifetime. And usually there's some patterns in it that really magnify to me when I look at somebody's chart. I've been doing this so long that I can see a whole chart in about 45 seconds, where it may take days for some people because they're learning it.
Wait, you got to repeat that, Bernie. I'm sorry. Say that
again. When I look at a whole chart for somebody, I can see all the patterns in it in about 45 seconds. I can see the current life and the past life patterns that fast. So it's only because I've developed these skills and I've been doing it so long. It's not like when I began doing this that it was that quick. It's just over time that I can see it, the whole patterns in it.
So can we get back to the chart for a second? I know you created a chart. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So is that the chart you're referring to when you say I look at a chart? Is it
actually the first chart is your birth chart? The month, day, year you're born, longitude, latitude, where you're born, and your birth time. That's the chart that I'm talking about. I invented a past life chart about 20 years ago that got turned into a major software program that's turned into an international bestseller. And I invented it. And it just
What did you invent, Bernie? Hold on. What
yeah,
did you invent?
it's a past life chart inside the chart. It's hidden in it. I saw it one day, and my left brain was fighting with my right brain. Could this possibly be true? And but then I knew it was right. The more I looked at it, I knew it was real. So the funny thing was, I was working on a past life software program for a software company, and I changed the whole thing around when I invented the past life chart. It happened that kind of a synchronicity kind of effect.
Yeah.
So when you get a chart done, it moves in a counterclockwise direction. The past life chart moves clockwise. Instead of your first house being your ascendant or rising sign, your 12th house is. The 12th house in a chart is like the mothership of your soul, your intuition. And that becomes the key point in the past life chart. It starts the whole wheel, you could say. So that's a big chart that I invented. And people love the software. I sell the reports, even the written reports to people. But it's just a wonderful tool to use also.
And where do you access? Where do you get that? How do people access?
People can buy the software program from Cosmic Patterns in Gainesville, Florida, where I went to college, oddly enough. That's a synchronicity in itself. Gainesville, Florida.
Seriously.
So, isn't that strange?
So strange.
It blew my mind when that happened.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
But then they can get the charts from you, Bernie? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's on my website. That whole underwritten reports, the past life chart. It's actually on the front page of my website because it became such a big deal. People became really fascinated by it. They really love the chart. It's just a different way of looking at the chart you were born with. It flips your planets into a past life wheel, is what it does.
Unbelievable. So, I mean, you know so much about this topic. And again, everyone, his website is bernieashman.com. So if you're wondering where that is, it's bernieashman.com. You've been doing this for so long. And I can imagine how that would shape your perception of the world. I mean, you must just have such a different lens than other people. I mean, is there any like little wisdom that you can share that you've learned, even just like words to go by that have guided you? Because I mean, you've been doing this 35 years. I'd love to ask you your age, but I know that's rude.
74.
Okay, he offered it up. But I'm like, I just find it, I just get so excited to learn from someone with, 74 years, and here you are, and you probably did in a past life too. So just triple that. Okay, everybody, in terms of knowledge. What are your words to live by in knowing what your viewpoint?
Well, to tell you what, I guess you could say, one big thing I've learned is patience. Slow down, because sometimes you'll get some of your best insights when you do. Marianne Williamson, she wrote a book, Return to Love. And, I was really curious what she meant by a miracle. And one thing she said in there really hit me. It's an altered perception.
That's her definition of a miracle. Yeah. Yes.
That's really what happens. And that's what astrology offers, an altered perception. These symbols are so powerful in a chart. They really give you so many different ways of looking at the same thing. That's why when I do somebody's chart, I don't try to pigeonhole that it's got to be a certain way, they got to do something. I just show different ways, different paths they can go on. So these altered perceptions are right there in an astrological chart. Insight just comes right out of a chart. They really do. And what I also find really interesting when I've taught people over the years, they'll see these really intense aspects between two planets, and they think, oh God, that's a horrible thing, I guess. I said, no, that's probably the creative force that allows people to do things. I've done my best writing under some of the worst aspects. You could call them. They're just two planets aligned powerfully. That doesn't mean worse, though. I got my first book contract under an alignment of Saturn going over my Mercury in 1987. If I'd gone to an astrologer that didn't know much, they'd say, oh, don't do that now. Just wait.
Yeah, that's
You know
what
what I
I
mean?
mean, Bernie. That's what I meant earlier when I said, do you think sometimes people go to it for the wrong reasons, right? Like they want someone to sort of don't do it now, do it that. But what you're saying, it's really how you look at the chart, right?
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
not
definitely.
always a bad thing. So hear that, everybody, when you hear, oh, Mercury's in retrograde. Oh my God, everything. And then we blame it on it. You know?
Yeah, you're right. I actually wrote a whole book on Mercury retrograde, how to survive Mercury retrograde a few years back for Llewellyn, because of that, which you just said, just to give some more positive ways you can use that particular cycle. So,
Right. Because I mean, what are
yeah,
you supposed to do? Put your life on hold?
right. And you can't I had to go up and do a workshop in Boston under a Mercury retrograde. I just couldn't stop. You just have to be more careful, maybe, dot your I's, cross your
Sure.
T's, just be a
Yeah.
little more careful. That's all. But it's not like you want to stop your whole existence or your whole life for a,
Interesting.
but when you say, did they ask the wrong question?
Yeah.
I'm not so sure people are asking the wrong question. They just want the right answer. That's what it comes down to.
Okay. Hold
Or
on. Hold on. I got to
right
digest that
answer.
one. I'm not sure people are asking the wrong question. They just want the right answer. Did everyone
Yeah.
hear
And
that?
sometimes it's not
And then
one
we go to the next one. Oh, they didn't give me the right answer. So I'm going the next one. The next one
right.
I'm going to go. I'm going to keep going until somebody tells me
Well,
what I want to hear.
well, sometimes you go to a doctor and it's not the right one. They
Yeah.
don't know what's wrong with you. And you go to
Yeah.
another one that just seems to know more about that particular thing that's wrong with you. So
Mm,
every once in a while, somebody will say, well, I've been told I have a horrible chart. And I'll
mm.
look at it. I say, no, you've got some things in there that have some intensity in it, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. I've had to clear that up a few times, and then I'll start saying, well, this can work this one. They said, well, I actually do that. That is a positive thing I do. It's not all wrong because I have Saturn like this or that. So,
Now, let me ask you, Bernie, because this is the Emotional Detox podcast, and I want to make sure we touch base on emotions. You know, and you might not know any of my work as emotional detox, but it's based on this premise that all emotions are good so long as they're processed, right? There's no bad emotion in the emotional detox world. What are your viewpoints of emotions with in your background and everything that you know?
I totally agree with you. One of my clients once said about Pluto, which has to do with processing and dealing with some real deep emotional energy from the past or the current time period. And she called it cosmic composting, is what she called it. Taking that energy, that's emotion that's not working so well for you, and replanting it, channeling that energy, into a more positive direction.
Hmm.
And that's often what we're doing anyway.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest healers that I know in North Carolina went through an awful lot of what you're talking about. And I'm not saying that it wasn't like that for me, even, going through some emotional detoxing at certain points, because it just makes you more healed. You can even be more productive in anything you do, whether it's parenting, what kind of work you do, whatever it is, health, those
Mm,
chakras, when they get blocked,
yeah.
how miserable it can be.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are just trying to emotionally detox just to clear all that energy through them. So astrology is interesting too, because there's certain areas of a certain planets, certain areas of a chart that have to do with emotional detoxing for in a big way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Totally. Yeah. One of the houses of the 12 is the eighth house, where a lot of that goes on. Probably the 12th house as well. So for sure.
How do
Yeah.
you teach this stuff, Bernie? Are you now teaching others how to read people, or do you primarily write books and then work one-on-one with people?
The latter. I just haven't had as much time to teach anymore. I've been
Yeah.
I'm going to re-release my first book, Astrological Games People Play, this year. It came out in 1987 for a couple of printings.
Yeah.
And, it was so far ahead of its time, that book. It
Yeah.
really was all about putting how to put the planets together, how to interpret them. And it has a psychological basis and spiritual, that book. But it was probably, everybody's caught up with that book now. Now's the time for it to get re-released, is my theory.
Yes.
So I've already got somebody that's going to help me put the book out. So that one in particular.
Well, you'll have to come back on the show.
I would love to. It's been fun.
I'd love to have you back on and to talk about that re-release. Well, Marianne Williamson, that's what she did. That was my first. That was my second self-help book. I was very fortunate. My mother was kind of pushing self-help at me at a very young age. So when people read Marianne Williamson's, have you read? And I'm like, I read that when I was 16 years old, right?
You were lucky.
Yeah, I was lucky that I was like, really, you're just reading that now? But so it might be the same for your book, Bernie. Like it's been out, but for some people, it's going to be, many people, it's going to be the first time, including me. I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Bernie, for all of this. I wish you the best of luck with this book, everyone. It's Sun Sign Karma. Simple. Sun Sign Karma. Get it for a friend. I know my teenager, I have 3 daughters, and I get stacks of books from publishers, and then I put them on these shelves separate from all my stuff. And lo and behold, I find your book in one of their rooms.
How about that? I'm so pleased to hear that.
So just want to let everyone know that if you have a teenager or someone in their 20s, they go for this stuff big time. Yeah.
Oh, that's just so good to hear. I was 25 when I got into this.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
No, I was like, went in their room. I was like, oh, okay, there it is. Help yourself.
Oh, that's wonderful. No, that's music to my ears. That's terrific.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening to Emotional Detox Podcast. We really appreciate you. And remember, your emotions matter. Processing them matters more. Please share the show with your friends, subscribe, listen, do all that great stuff, and get Bernie's book. All right.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. To grab a copy of Sherianna's book or to join her weekly live meditation, go to sheriannaboyle.com.